Welcome, Swaggers, to the channel. This will be Dogscape Part 1. Now let's begin. Log 1. I awaken. I don't know at the moment, but this day marks my 4th straight year of existing in the Dogscape. I push myself up from the carpet of withering, twisting dog flesh beneath me, and rise to my feet, stretching in the morning sun. It took me a while to learn to balance on the layer of solid dogs that now blanket every inch of solid ground, but nowadays I can walk and run as easily and as fast as I ever did on the soil or concrete, perhaps faster. This was a city once, I think, though which one I can't remember. I only owe my guess to the massive pillars of dogs jutting into the sky, perhaps an ancient building nowadays completely filled and overgrown by canine biomatter. I climbed one once, sticking my fingers and toes deep in the dog wall to gain perches, and after hours and hours of climbing was rewarded by an incredible vista. Fur and eyes, panting tongues, and wagging tails hanging the contour of the once barren land, and stretching in a single aerobic mass further than the eye can see. Now I don't do that though. Now I merely go about my day. I hike to the gardens where the dog plants sprout up in bizarre shapes from the floor of the Dogscape, and reach up to pluck the fetal puppy fruits right off the wagging, energetic branches. I bite into the succulent flesh. The juices drip down my chin and drip down to be reabsorbed by the ground flesh, and reveal in the savory taste. I'm thirsty, so I range until I find one of the mother mounds, and there I suckle at the teat patch until I've had my fill of milk. Sometimes I see other humans around me as well adapted to the Dogscape as I am, but I barely acknowledge them, say nothing. What, after all, is there to say? The world is different now. What meaning would our old words have? Free-ranging dogs are becoming rarer and rarer to see now, and those I do see seem as lost, as passive as I am. They too graze on the dog plants, step carefully over the undulating, bleeding dog floor, dimly acknowledged itself and one another in the distant sky, and on the far horizon I sometimes see massive forms sail or crawl or undulate, and I wonder if in this new world normal, singular, abnormal, obligatory dogs have become as obsolete as I am. Log 2. I dug down once, down beneath the dogs, beneath the hair and the airs and the barking. It was hard, and it took a lot of planning. I had to destroy one of the dog's trees with my hands, rip out a twisted yard-long cumulus spines that served them and that severed them as branches and lashed them together with tendons and skin. But soon I had tools. Pitchforks, spears, shovels. I picked the spot where the dog floor seemed shallower and set to work. The blood started spurting when my spear first broke the surface and didn't stop for hours and hours and hours. I was drenched in gore and viscera, covered in flecks of bone and meat and brain. But I learned to ignore the sickening, squenching sound, ward off the smell, and just keep going deeper and deeper, spearing and livering out dogs of stranger and stranger size and build. Dogs with 2 heads, dogs with human heads, dogs with withering tentacles where their back legs should be. Eventually, I came to the end of the dogs, or perhaps the beginning of whatever lies beyond the dogs, an expanse of multicolored patchwork of fur that extended as far as I could dig in any direction. I could pierce it with great difficulty, but it barely bled, and try as I might, I could barely peel the skin away. Revealing a layer of strained grayish muscular muscle beneath. It started to tremble as I watched it, shaking in the very dog matter around me, and I realized that the dogscape was beginning to regenerate itself, close in over me, seal me in. So I fled, climbed back up to the light. Log 3. The stream trickled, warmly past the black leathery edges of the puppy mouth stream. The saliva waters churned as they flowed from the bed of the stream, lined with the ever-lapping tongues of eager greeting puppies. To feel a rock on the shore is to find sharp milk teeth of lean dogs cast into the turf and meager weeds, growing into spits and black and bank. The heads of the stream is split by a single mound of golden fur, like an upholstered boulder set with a large golden eye that swerves to see passing visitors. The water will bubble and froth should the eye see you. The tongue lapping nervous, loving greetings with gulped yips. Log 4. The dogscape, that's what we call it, us humans, that banded together. We sit around campfires and cook whelps we collect from dog trees. The only flammable material we have is the arsid fur that grows everywhere. It offends all senses, but soon the meal is prepared. The only food sources are the dog trees and mother mounds. Some foolish enough to dig for meat. Though rewarded is great, many don't come back. The dog flesh regrows above them, trapping them inside the moist ground. Primitive tools are forged from bones and leather, such as shovels and knives and clothes. I have lived here for as long as I can remember. There are faint shimmers of a time before the dog flesh, but what use is there dwelling on the past when it cannot fill our stomachs I am a tribe scribe. My name is Duck. I used to have a real name, but it escapes my memory. I recall all of our findings and knowledge in my leather pages, using dog blood as ink. There were times when there were more of us. The tribe started with as many as 60 people. Now our numbers are few as 20. Our leader is Keith. He instructs us to find food, build shelter, and bring fire. He abuses his power, taking 5 wives and eating more than his share of the food, but those who speak against him meet death in the night. It is hellish, but there is no other choice. Without guidance, we will die out here, so we must remain under his leadership. It has been 2 days. It has been 2 days since my last writing. I am lucky that Keith cannot read, for if he had seen my statements about him, I would be dead. Yesterday, one of our tribe members was killed by accidentally stepping into one of the open dog mouths. His screams of pain as it chewed forced me to crush his skull with a shovel, killing him instantly. The bastard Keith claimed caught food rations as his own. I can sense the others are beginning to tire of Keith's position of power as well. Nobody spoke a word at that night's feast. I will not sleep well tonight, hearing cots scream in my nightmares. I fear for my life. Feck was killed in front of all of us today by Keith. All of us by Keith today. He refused to continue digging for meat, so the monster beat him to death with his bare hands as a sign that he would not tolerate a refusal to work. I cannot stand for this much longer. Feck was not even an adult. He could not have been more than 17 human years. This brings our number down to 18. There is Keith, his 5 wives, me, and the remaining 11 diggers and gatherers. The others whisper. The others are beginning to The others whisper to me in secret that I should be the leader. Instead, I guess they think I have all the answers because I'm the scribe. Only time will tell. I was awoken at the crack of dawn by one of the diggers. Gar. Specifically, he told me that tonight would be the night the others had a plan. They would meet me. They would want me to announce that I am the new leader during the feast. When he was as distracted with rage, they would intend to kill him from behind. I tell Gar that I accept his plan and will assist them tonight. What have I gotten myself into? Damn them all. I told Keith I planned to replace him. He arose, filled with rage. I waited for the blow to strike him. It never hit Keith. Instead, it hit me. Gar was Keith's spy all along. They dragged me far away from the gardens and tied me to the barren dog tree. He said that a quick death would not befit me, and I will waste away under the deathly sun. I can just barely reach my journal from here. I suppose this is the end of me. When the sun was highest in the sky, the heat became unbearable. I saw figures in the horizon. They were not human. They were hounds that can't come to eat what humans leave behind. I thought they were going to eat me. Instead, they went for the blood-soaked metrops that held me in place. I was free. I kneeled down to the hounds and looked deep into its eyes, and told them I knew where they could fill their bellies to the brim. It barked once in what I assumed was confirmation. I stood up, and we set off to feast. When we reached the settlement, it was mist, their feast. I approached, death in my gaze. Keith was shocked and angry. The diggers and gatherers were quick to his defense. I guess he bribed them. I whistled, and the hounds slinked through the fur to my side. We struck like lightning bolts. My fist smashed into Keith's face just as the hounds pounced upon his closest guards. Though I was physically weak, I was quite fast. I stole a shovel and quickly buried it into Keith's bloat. While he was disoriented, the smell was sickening, as I expected from a man like him. The hounds made quick work of the rest. I held, of course. None were spared. I made sure I had my vengeance upon Gar. The hounds were quite full by the end. I took my time and buried each corpse, or what was left of them. I leave this book upon their graves in the hope that someone will understand it, finds it. If you do, take heed of the words. The Dogscape knows all, and is strict but fair. She provides justice where justice is due. Log 5. I had a dog right after the Dogscape happened. His name was Carl. He always followed me around when I was almost dead and starving. He got me dog fruits. When I was dying of thirst, he held milk into my mouth and got it to me. One day, his foot got stuck in a mouse, and I couldn't get him out, so I watched while it swallowed him. A few years later, when I went back, Carl was right there, but he was stretched out, and I went to pet him, except it wasn't him, and he bit me and wouldn't let go. I wonder if people can be part of the Dogscape too. I miss Carl. Log 6. All is one in the new truce. The dog mother is vast beyond imagining, and requires many to be kept comfortable and clean. We chosen to not go unrewarded. However, in her vast wisdom, the matriarch gives all we need. We sup from her vast teat, a heavy meat unlike any other. It's vigorous and nutritious. Us Kendistonians, and gives us more than we could have ever wished. The time soon approaches, though, too metamorphosis is upon us, many of us, and soon we will join with the glory of the dog man. We are so different from the others as they shuffle about down among the fuddle groves. Many of us have a thick coat already, and old Lawrence has already begun to walk on all fours. Soon we will shed our mortal selves and be part of the dog mother, our mother. Log 7. I think we knew the war had been lost the day the general committed suicide. The masses of flesh and fur just spread like waves across the cities. We found out that whatever it was drinking the oceans and eating anything it came across. Airstrikes, tanks, bombs. It only slowed it down. We were living on borrowed time. It was unstoppable. I don't think it was until later that we noticed all the dogs were gone. And then at night, the howling, it was just too much. The former soldier's face streamed with involuntary tears as he remembered the events. He sat there, wallowing in his own emotions, telling his story to a skeleton he found. My unit completely wiped out. I saw those tentacles and those mouths. They tore them to shreds. I ran away, even when they called for help. It's all your fault. The dog tree shifted slightly, and many eyes rolling around directed their gaze towards the psychopathic man. You ruined everything. You killed my friends, my family. God damn everyone. He ran and stabbed one of his eyes with a raw bone fragment, and a howling noise emerged from the nearby dog tree, swatted him several yards. He broke his few ribs and he hit the ground. He coughed a bit of blood, but got back up and charged again. This time he ran towards one of the open mouths around him and kicked several of his teeth out. It bit his foot in response, costing him a toe or two. He was so full of adrenaline he was incapable of registering any kind of pain. He beat and tore and bit at the flesh with his bare hands until he was knee-deep in blood and gore. One of the tubes he tore spilled some sort of digestive fluid all over him. It burned, but he had to go on. He dug with his bare hands until the ground started to close above him. He kept digging until he found them, the heart and brain. He laughed at his fortune of finding both of them so close to each other. He jammed his hands deep into the gray matter, disturbing the contents and slowly losing oxygen in his tunnel of meat. He grasped and clawed at the heart, tearing it out of place. He collapsed in blackout. He awoke to many tentacles burying themselves into his body. One hit his spinal cord and fused with his brainstem. A flood of thought hit him all at once, and he suddenly became one of the Dogscape. More tentacles connected themselves to his vital organs. As he became assimilated, he saw through every eye in the lands and felt every single nerve on the planet. The healing factor continued tearing him apart, but adding new pathways and connections. It wasn't long until he was entirely consumed. His memories faded away as his brain was recognized into replacing the one he had destroyed. This will be the end of part 1 of Dogscape. Thank you, Swaggers, for your time and your fear factor to raise. Subscribe to the channel and become a Swagger today.